Hello and happy Sunday. So today I went to church and then ever since I have been resting and just enjoying the comfort of my room and my bed. So I decided I'm going to film this vlog from the comfort of my bed. So we're just gonna start. Home. They often say home is where the heart is. Now, Tim Tebow says in his book, This is the Day, that for Christians, the world is not our home, and that we ultimately belong with God in his heavenly kingdom. This place on earth is temporary. However, we get glimpses of our home with God when we are aligned with his promises and his purpose for our lives. I wholeheartedly believe that, and God has shown me in numerous ways over the course of this week how true that can be. It all started 6 years ago, around this time when I first came to Kentucky and served with CAP during an alternative spring break service week known as WorkFest. I was a sophomore in college, and I was in a drastically different place in my spiritual walk. So different, in fact, that I was not able to recognize until recently how me being back in Kentucky and committing to a year of service was actually a promise fulfilled. I remember leaving Kentucky the first time. It was the morning of our final day of WorkFest. My fellow college students, volunteers, and CAP employees, each holding a lit candle, formed a circle in the retreat center's multipurpose room and sang a song that I would sing 6 years later as I was officially initiated as a long-term volunteer with CAP. A song and a feeling that brought back such an overwhelming sense of peace, joy, and home that I'd been longing for. I now know that the same indescribable feeling that I'd felt years ago was actually the presence of the Holy Spirit the entire time. He knew. He always does. God brought me back. He made a way for me to return to the place where I truly and unequivocally feel like I'm serving my purpose and following his plan for my life. I'm finally back home. At the Martin Luther King Jr. recognition ceremony on Monday of this week, I came across a passage in the program that said, "And look with joy for the blessing of God, who often comes to my home in the blessing of a stranger. Come and see." God shows up and offers us a sense of home through places, people, and experiences. He warms our heart, allows us to lay it all down before we even decide to enter, encourages us to take off the mask that we put on to face the rest of the world, and he embraces us with open arms. Our home is always with us, and we are always at home if we are with him. There is a poem performed by two poets entitled When Love Arrives. And there is a point near the end of the piece when the duet proclaims, "Love arrives exactly when love is supposed to. When love arrives, say welcome. Make yourself comfortable, and if love leaves, ask them to leave the door open behind them and say, thank you for stopping by. When God arrives, let him in, offer him a seat, and expect him to stay, and know that he will never overstay his welcome." This week, God showed up, and he definitely made himself at home in my life. He showed up in the faces of the participants that I served, who opened up their homes to me, a stranger who answered the call to serve and provide in-home respite to those in need of a break. A stranger who filled the volunteer position that had been left vacant since it was first created 7.5 years ago. A stranger that had no idea what was on the other side of the door. But in true fashion, God showed up, and he provided like we can expect him to. He provided me with a woman who has dedicated her life to serving those in need. A woman who has worked over the past 11.5 years to develop deep and intentional relationships based on trust and respect with the participants she serves. The same woman who told me during our drive to a participant's home that she knew that I would volunteer with in-home respite and that God revealed that to her during my interview. The same woman who welcomed me, encouraged me, and led by example throughout this week as we worked together to serve our participants. Our participants opened their doors to me because she is family to them, and strangers, they're just family we have yet to come to know. God showed up when I sat beside a participant who took the time to show me his sketchbooks, filled to the max with beautifully impressive drawings of animals and intricate landscapes, and then told me about each animal that was illustrated. God showed up in conversations over coffee, conversations about times in the service, family secrets, and personal struggles. God showed up in the pain in the eyes of family members whose tender hearts break as they watch their kin slowly drift from this earth, pass on to the next. God showed up in homemade biscuits and fried taters that my participants' caregiver taught me to make. God showed up in the car rides to and from, where life stories were shared, tears were shed, and walls were broken down. God showed up when a defensive driving course that transitioned into testimonies were willingly shared and abundantly welcomed. God showed up in the many dogs that I was blessed to pet and cuddle up with this week. God showed up when the kiddos at the Child Development Center flocked to me and invited me back every day for playtime. God showed up during devotionals with housemates that challenged us to look to our painful pasts, yet move forward together. God showed up in the beauty of summer camp staff who eagerly await the arrival of their future campers. God showed up on the early morning, bone-chilling yet refreshing walks to work. God showed up in Miss Pam, the kind woman who welcomed me to join her again at a new church where I felt called to lay down my burdens amongst fellow believers. God showed up in the form of a care package from my parents who provide me with endless love and support. God showed up in divine echoes, answered prayers, and broken yet healing hearts. God showed up again in the form of a friend who traveled 5 hours here and back just to spend the day with me. A friend who trusts my taste in coffee and food and places his confidence in me to order for him. A friend that accepts me as I am and doesn't try to fix me. A friend that not only listens, but moves in closer to read the Bible and hear my testimony. A friend that doesn't mind my car ride concerts that are quite frankly embarrassing beyond measure. A friend who checks in, encourages, and offers support. God shows up in the form of a book that you've wanted to reread for years and just so happens to be on the shelf of the community house, an entirely unsuspecting situation. He then shows up when you and your friend commit to rereading that same book, one chapter at a time, each time that y'all visit one another, a new chapter as the weeks go on. God shows up on golden birthday celebrations at a Catholic Mass where songs about Jesus get stuck in your head for the remainder of the day. God shows up when a dear friend FaceTimes you during a concert of one of your favorite bands, just because they wanted to include you in the moment. God shows up in the form of fuzzy socks and cozy sweaters, random gifts from your housemates. God shows up in Tibetan worry rings, where a friend tells you that they associate you with calming things and that your mere existence and presence in their life is warming to their soul. God makes himself at home in the tears that emerge from loneliness and homesickness, in the late night phone calls that you wish didn't have to end and that your heavy eyes would perk up for, in the good lucks and the I'm thinking about yous, in the I miss yous and the I wish you were here's, in the bluegrass gospel jam sessions and the deep cleaning dance parties in the kitchen, in the I don't know why I'm telling you this, I hardly know you, and the your story gives me goosebumps and I'm so excited for your journey ahead, in the when will I see you again, to the consider this your home. In short, this week I learned that I am home. So what have I learned? It's pretty simple. Come as you are and make yourself comfortable. Home is where healing takes place and where you can go to find rest. So my encouragement for everyone is to open the door, walk in, and sit down and make yourself at home. So yeah, that's what I have for you this week. It was pretty short and simple. But I just want to thank everyone, as always, for watching my videos, for sending me so much encouragement, and for praying for me during my year of service. So thank you so much, and I hope y'all have another wonderful week.